All right. Welcome back. Hey, to this experimental live read of Adult Brain audiobooks. I'm Graham, one of the narrators. I'm going to be reading Ragnarok, The Age of Fire and Gravel. That's a book that was published by Ignatius Donnelly in 1883, talking about cataclysms and stuff like that. We went through part 1, The Drift, part 2, The Comet, and now we are in the end of part 3, The Legends. This is chapter 11, the Arabian Myths, and probably part of chapter 12, the book of Job as well. And then we'll be moving on later on to the conclusions. So this is still there's quite a few pages for these last 3 chapters. So I don't know how long it'll take, a few days. Only can do so much at once. So just want to share my screen here. This is raw and rough. This is how the sausage is made. I'm editing it as we go here. So, hopefully I don't cough and sputter too much. I'll try to keep it polite and not swear when I make mistakes and stuff like that. So here it is, the chapter, the Arabian Myths. Yeah, smash that like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. You can go back to the live tab on our channel, and you'll see from the start of this book onwards, there's some visuals in the PDF there at certain points. I'm just scrolling along as I go. So here we go. Just slide that over a little bit. Okay. Chapter 11. Chapter 11. The Arabian Myths. And when we turn to the Arabian tales, we not only see by their identity with the Hindu and Slavonic legends that they are of great antiquity, dating back to the time when these widely diverse races, Aryan and Semitic, were one, but we find in them many allusions to the battle between good and evil, between God and the serpent. Abu Muhammad the Lazy, who is a very great magician with power over the forces of the air and the afrits. Just got to check that. Going to pull this down a little bit here. So, he was a very great magician. Yeah, I'm going to have to start that sentence again. I've changed it up, so I'm using the other screen. Aryan and Semitic were one, but we find in them many allusions to the battle between good and evil, between God and the serpent. Yeah, so I'm using a smaller screen for the recording and the editing because I want my picture in the bottom right. I want to show the whole PDF on the left, and I don't think there's another way to do it in YouTube. So we'll start again that sentence there. Abu Muhammad the Lazy, who was a very great magician with power over the forces of the air and the afrits, beholds a battle between 2 great snakes, one tawny-colored, the other white. The tawny serpent is overcoming the white one, but Abu Muhammad kills it with a rock. The white serpent, the sun, departed and was absent for a while, but returned. And the tawny serpent was torn to pieces and scattered over the land, and nothing remained of her but her head. And then we have the legend of the city of brass or bronze. It relates to an age of... Do that again. It relates to an ancient age and period in the olden time. One of the caliphs, Abdemelek, one of the caliphs, Abdemelek, the son of Marwan, has heard from antiquity that Solomon is in Arabic like Charlemagne in the Middle Ages myths of Europe. Got to redo that too. Let's see here. Got to get some flow going here. Solomon is in Arabic like Charlemagne in the Middle Age myths of Europe, the synonym for everything venerable and powerful, had imprisoned genii in bottles of brass, and the caliph desired to procure some of these bottles. Then Talib, the son of Saul, tells the caliph that a man once voyaged to the island of Sicily, but a wind arose and blew him away to one of the lands of God. That's interesting. Sicily being, right sort of down there by the gates. This happened during the black darkness of night, It was a remote, unfrequented land. The people were black and lived in caves and were naked and of strange speech. They cast their nets for Talib and brought up a bottle of brass or bronze containing one of the imprisoned genii, who came out of it as a blue smoke and cried in a horrible voice, "Repentance, repentance, O prophet of God." All this was in a western land, and Abdamelech sent Talib to find this land. It was a journey of 2 years and some months going, and like the returning. It was gonna redo that, do that sentence there. It was a journey of 2 years and some months going, and the like returning. It was in a far country. They first reached a deserted palace in a desolate land, the palace of Kosh, the son of Shaddad, the son of Ad, the Greater. He read an inscription. Here was a people whom after their works thou shalt see wept over their lost dominion. And in this palace is the last information respecting lords collected in the dust. Death hath destroyed them and disunited them, and in the dust they have lost what they amassed. Talib goes on with his troops until they come to a great pillar of black stone, sunk into which, to his armpits, was a mighty creature. He had 2 wings and 4 arms, 2 of them like those of the sons of Adam, and 2 like the forelegs of lions with claws. He had hair upon his head like the tails of horses, and 2 eyes like 2 burning coals. And he had a 3rd eye in his forehead, like the eye of the lynx, from which there appeared sparks of fire. He was in. Hopefully that's still high enough. He was the imprisoned comet monster, and these arms and eyes darting fire remind us of the description given of the apostate angel in the other legends. Here's a pic of the afrit in the pillar, huge angel wings. He was tall and black, and he was crying out, "Extolled be the perfection of thy Lord, who hath appointed me this severe affliction and painful torture until the day of resurrection." The party of Talib were stupefied at the sight and retreated in fright, and the wise man, the Sheikh Abdelazmad, of course it's hyphenated right at the end. I mean, that's the problem with these old books is you have to anticipate the hyphens there. Abdel Samad, and the wise man, the Sheikh Abdel Samad, one of the party, drew near and asked the imprisoned monster his history. And he replied, "I am an afrit of the genii, and my name is Dahish, the son of Alamash." Let me double check that. Alamash. I have my assistant helping me with pronunciations. What the? Oh, let's see here. What? I can't find it. I should refresh that maybe. I don't know what's going on here with my assistant. There it is. Dahish, Dahish, Elamash, 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 Elamash. I am an afrit. I'll redo that. Elamash, Dahish, 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 Elamash. I'm an afrit of the genii, and my name is Dahish, the son of Elamash, and I am restrained here by the majesty of God. There belonged to one of the sons of Eblis an idol of red carnelian, of which I was made guardian, and there used to worship it one of the kings of the sea, of illustrious dignity, of great glory, leading among his troops the genii, 1,000,000 warriors who smote with swords before him, and who answered his prayer in cases of difficulty. These genii who obeyed him were under my command and authority, following my words when I ordered them. All of them were in rebellion against Solomon, the son of David, on both of whom be peace. And I used to enter the body of the idol to command them and to forbid them. Solomon sent word to this king of the sea that he must give up the worship of the idol of red carnelian. The king consulted the idol, and this afrit, speaking through the idol, encouraged the king to refuse. What, he said to him, can Solomon do to thee when thou art in the midst of this great sea? And so Solomon came to compel the island race to worship the true God. He surrounded his island and filled the land with his troops. Assisted by birds and wild beasts, and a dreadful battle followed in the air. After this, they came upon all us together. After this, they came upon us all together, and we contended with him in a wide tract for a period of 2 days. And calamity befell us on the third day, and the decree of God, whose name be exalted, was executed among us. The first who charged upon Solomon were I and my troops. And I said to my companions, keep in your places in the battlefield, while I go forth to them and challenge Demiriat. Demiriat was the sun, the bright one. And lo, he came forth like a great mountain, his fires flaming and his smoke ascending. And he approached and smote me with a flaming fire, and his arrow prevailed over my fire. He cried out at me with a prodigious cry, so that I imagined the heaven had fallen and closed over me, and the mountains shook at his voice. Then he commanded his companions, and they charged upon us all together. There's a picture, Dahish overtaken by Demiriat. Demiriat. I do have that here too. Demiriat. Whoops. I just closed the YouTube. Oh, that's why I had 2 pronunciation tabs open. All right, let's see here. There we go. There's a cool picture there with the mace. It looks like he's got a mace in his hand and a spear. Interesting that that's 3 days again. There's 3 days popping up. He commanded his companions, and they charged upon us all together. It comes up all the time. 3 days. Is it solar, lunar, or deeper than that? We also charged upon them, and we cried out one to another. The fires rose and the smoke ascended. The hearts of the combatants were almost cleft asunder, and the battle raged. The birds fought in the air, and the wild beasts in the dust. And I contended with Demiriat until he wearied me, and I wearied him. After which I became weak, and my companions and troops were enervated, and my tribes were routed. The birds tore out the eyes of the demons and cut them in pieces until the earth was covered with the fragments, like the trunks of palm trees. As for me, I flew from before Demiriat, but he followed me a journey of 3 months until he overtook me. And Solomon hollowed out the black pillar and sealed him in it with his signet, and chained him until the day of resurrection. And Talib and his party go on still further, and find the city of brass, a weird, mysterious, lost city in a desolate land, silent and all its people dead, a city once of high civilization, with mighty brazen walls and vast machinery and great mysteries, a city whose inhabitants had perished suddenly in some great calamity. And on the walls were tablets, and on one of them were inscribed these solemn words: Where are the kings and the peoples of the earth? They have quitted that which they have built and peopled, and in the grave they are pledged for their past actions. There, after destruction, they have become putrid corpses. Where are the troops? They repelled not prof. They repelled. They repelled not nor profited. They repelled not nor profited. They repelled not nor profited. And where is that they collected and hoarded? The decree of the Lord of the throne surprised them. Neither riches nor refuge saved them from it. And they saw the merchants dead in their shops. Their skins were dried and their bones were carious. And they saw them. Excuse me. I have nasal problems. It's like just keeps loosening up. Okay, where was I? And they repelled not brought. Where's a? And they saw the merchants. I'm gonna have to go back and just make sure here. Neither riches nor refuge saved them from it. Oh, there we go. All right, I'm gonna line that up here. Check. And they saw the merchants dead in their shops. Their skins were dried and their bones were carious, and they had become examples to him who would be admonished. Everywhere were the dead, lying upon skins and appearing almost as if they would speak. Their death seems to have been due to a long period of terrible heat and drought. On a couch was a damsel more beautiful than all the daughters of Adam. She was embalmed so as to preserve all her charms. Her eyes were of glass filled with quicksilver, which seemed to follow the beholder's every motion. Near her was a tablet of gold on which was inscribed, "In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, the Lord of lords, the cause of causes, the everlasting, the eternal. Where are the kings of the regions of the earth? Where are the Amalekites? Where are the mighty..." Where are the mighty monarchs? The mansions are void of their presence, and they have quitted their families and homes. Where are the kings of the foreigners and the Arabs? They have all died and become rotten bones. Where are the lords of high degree? They have all died. Where are the Korah and Haman? Where is Shaddad, the son of Ad? Where are Canaan and Pharaoh? God hath cut them off, and it is he who... Excuse me. God hath... Check. Scroll up. God hath cut them off, and it is he who cutteth short the lives of mankind, and he hath made the mansions to be void for their presence. I am Tadmor, the daughter of the king of the Amalekites, of those who ruled the countries with equity. I possessed what none of the kings possessed, i.e., an extent of dominion, and ruled with justice, and acted impartially toward my subjects. I gave and bestowed, and I lived a long time in the enjoyment of happiness and an easy life, and emancipated both female and male slaves. Thus I did until the summoner of death came, and disasters occurred before me. And the cause was this: 7 years in succession came upon us, during which no water descended on us from heaven, nor did any grass grow for us on the face of the earth. So we ate what food we had in our dwellings, and after that we fell upon the beasts and ate, and there remained nothing. Upon this, therefore, I caused the wealth to be brought, and meted it with a measure, and sent it by trusty men who went about it with... I have to redo that whole sentence. So we ate what food we had in our dwellings, and after that we fell upon the beasts and ate, and there remained nothing. Right there. Upon this, therefore, I caused the wealth to be brought, and meted it with a measure, and sent it by trusty men who went about it with it through all. I'm stumbling over that one. Upon this, therefore, I caused the wealth to be brought, and meted it with a measure, and sent it by trusty men who went about with it through all regions, not leaving unvisited a single large city to seek for some food. But they found it not, and they returned to us with the wealth after a long absence. So thereupon were exposed to view our riches and our treasures, locked the gates of the fortresses. Check. So thereupon we exposed to view our riches and our treasures, locked the gates of the fortresses. I can't say that name. So thereupon we exposed to view our riches and our treasures, locked the gates of the fortresses in our city, fortresses. So thereupon we exposed to view our riches and our treasures, locked the gates of the fortresses in our city. So thereupon we exposed to view our riches and our treasures, locked the gates of the fortresses in our city, and submitted ourselves to the decrees of our Lord. And thus we all died, as thou beholdest, and left what we had built and what we had treasured. And this strange tale has relations to all the other legends. Here we have the great demon, darting fire, blazing, smoking, the destructive one, the rebel against the good God. He is overthrown by the bright, shining one, Demiriat, the same as the Dev Miritri. Mritu, Dev Mritu. He is overthrown. Check. He is overthrown by the bright, shining one, Demiriat, the same as the Dev Mritu of the Hindus, and he forces. Oh boy. And he and his forces are cut to pieces and scattered over the land, and he, after being chased for months through space, is captured and chained. Associated with all this is a people of the Bronze Age, a highly civilized people, a people living on an island in the Western Sea, who perished by a calamity which came on them suddenly. Ah, people in the island in the Western Sea. Wonder what Western Sea that is. Sounds like Atlantis to me. Check. A summoner of death. A summoner of death. A summoner of death came and brought disasters, and then followed a long period of terrible heat and drought, in which not they alone, but all nations and cities were starved by the drying up of the earth. The demon had devoured the clouds, like Cacus. He had dragged them backward into his den, and no Hercules, no Indra had arisen to hurl the electric bolt that was to kill the heat, restore the clouds, and bring upon the parched earth the grateful rain. And so this Bronze Age race check. And so this Bronze Age race spread out their useless treasures to the sun, and despite their miseries, they praised the God of gods, the cause of causes, the merciful, the compassionate, and lie down to die. And in the evil one, captured and chained and sealed by Solomon, we seem to have the same thing prefigured in Revelation 22. 2. And he laid hold of the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. 3. And he cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should no more seduce the nations. Chapter. Why was I going to say 3? Chapter 12. The book of Job. We are told in the Bible, Job 1:16. While he, Job, was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I am only. Damn it. The fire of God. Excuse my language. Right at the end, and I only am escaped, alone to tell thee. Yeah, it figures. While he. I'm going to redo that whole line. While he, Job, was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. And in verse 18 we are told, While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. 19. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the four corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. We have here the record of a great convulsion. Fire fell from heaven, the fire of God. It was not lightning, for it killed the 7,000 sheep. See chapter 1, 3. Belonging to Job and all his shepherds, and not only killed, but consumed them, burned them up. A fire falling from heaven great enough to kill 7,000 sheep must have been an extensive conflagration, extending over a large area of country. And it seems to have been accompanied by a great wind, a cyclone, which killed all Job's sons and daughters. Has the book of Job anything to do with that great event which we have been discussing? Did it originate out of it? Let us see. In the first place, it is, I believe, conceded by the foremost scholars that the book of Job is not a Hebrew work. It was not written by Moses. It far antedates even the time of Abraham. That very high orthodox authority, George Smith, FSA, in his work shows that everything relating to this patriarch has been violently controverted. His country, the age in which he lived, the author of the book that bears his name, have all been fruitful themes of discord. And this have all been have all been fruitful themes of discord. And as if to confound confusion, these disputants have have all been fruitful themes of discord, and as if to confound confusion, these disputants are interrupted by others who would maintain that no such person ever existed, that the whole tale is a poetic fiction, an allegory. Job lived to be 200 years old, or according to the Septuagint, 400. This great age Okay, here we go. Check. This great age relegates him to the era of the antediluvians, or their immediate descendants, among whom such extreme ages were said to have been common. C.S. Bryant says, Job is in the purest Hebrew. The author uses only the word Elohim for the name of God. The compiler or reviser of the work, Moses, or whoever he was, employed at the heads of chapters and in the introductory and concluding portions the name of Jehovah. But all the verses where Jehovah occurs in Job are later interpolations in very old poem written at a time when the Semitic race had no other name for God but Elohim, before Moses obtained the elements of the new name from Egypt. Hale says, the cardinal constellations of spring and autumn in Job's time were Chima and Chesel. Chima, I bet you that's Chima and Kessel. Chima and Kessel. Chima, and well, something went wrong. Huh. My assistant is down. Something went wrong. My assistant is down. I'm going to have to check with a new assistant. But I know they're helping me with Ragnarok. So let me just see here. Yeah, something's not working. Oh boy. Okay, just give me a sec here. Let me try another assistant here. I used to have these websites that I could go to for pronunciations, but it just became easier to use assistants. It's just weird that why now would it shut down? So my guess is Chima, not Chima. Chima and Casil. Chima. It is Chima. Chima and Chesil. Chima and Chesil. Okay. Huh. Try that again. The cardinal. Chima and Chesil. The cardinal constellations of spring and autumn in Job's time were Chima and Chesil, or Taurus and Scorpio, of which the principal stars are Aldebaran, the bullseye, and Antares, the scorpion's heart. Knowing, therefore, the longitudes of these stars at present, the interval of time from thence to the assumed date of Job's trial will give the difference of these longitudes, and ascertain their positions then will respect to the vernal and equinoctial points of intersection. Too long, of the equinoctial and ecliptic. I almost made it, but not quite. So let me redo that guy. I'm gonna have to go all the way back, probably right there. Knowing that, yeah. Check. Knowing, therefore, the longitudes. Knowing, therefore, the longitudes of these stars at present, the interval of time from thence to the assumed date of Job's trial will give the difference of these longitudes, and ascertain their positions then with respect to the vernal and equinoctial points of intersection of the equinoctial and ecliptic. According to the usual rate of the precession of the equinoxes, 1 degree in 71 years and a half. A careful calculation based on these principles has proved that this period was 2338 BC. According to the Septuagint, in the opinion of George Smith, Job lived, or the book of Job was written from 2650 BC to 2250 BC, or the events described may have occurred 25,740 years before that date. It appears, therefore, that the book of Job was written, even according to the calculations of the Orthodox, long before the time of Abraham, the founder of the Jewish nation, and hence could not have been the works of Moses or any other Hebrew. Mr. Smith thinks that it was produced soon after the flood by an Arabian. He finds in it many proofs of great antiquity. He sees in it 31, 26, 28. Proof that in Job's time, idolatry was an offense under the laws and punishable as such. And he is satisfied that all the parties to the great dialogue were free from the taint of idolatry. Mr. Smith says, the Babylonians, Chaldeans, Egyptians, Canaanites, Midianites, Ethiopians. The Babylonians, check. The Babylonians, Chaldeans, Egyptians, Canaanites, Midianites, Ethiopians of Abyssinia, Syrians, and other contemporary nations had sunk into gross idolatry long before the time of Moses. The Arabians were an important branch of the great Atlantean stock. They derived their descent from the people of Ad. And to this day, the Arabians declare that the father of Job was the founder of the great Arabian people. Again, the same author says, Job acted as high priest in his own family, and minute as are the descriptions of the different classes and usages of society in this book, we have not the slightest allusion to the existence of any priests or specially appointed ministers of religion, a fact which shows the extreme antiquity of the period, as priests were, in all probability, first appointed about the time of Abraham and become general soon after. He might have added that priests were known among the Egyptians and Babylonians and Phoenicians from the very beginning of their history. Dr. McGee says, if, in short, there be on the whole that genuine air of the antique which those distinguished scholars, Schultens, Louth, and Michaelis, affirm in every respect to pervade the work, we can scarcely hesitate to pronounce, with Lowth and Sherlock, that the book of Job is the oldest in the world now extant. Moreover, it is evident that this ancient hero, although he probably lived before Babylon and Assyria, before Troy was known, before Greece had a name, nevertheless dwelt in the midst of a high civilization. The various arts, the most recondite sciences, the most remarkable productions of earth in respect of animals, vegetables, and minerals, the classified arrangement of the stars of heaven are all noticed. Not only did Job's people possess an alphabet, but books were written, characters were engraved, and some have even gone so far as to claim the art of printing was known because Job says, "Would that my words were printed in a book." The literary excellence of the work is of the highest order. Lowth says, "The antiquary or the critic, who has been at the pains to trace the history of the Grecian drama from its first week of imperfect and imperfect efforts." Hmm. The literary excellence of the work is of the highest order. I have to redo that one. The antiquary or the critic, who has been at the pains to trace the history of the Grecian drama from its first weak and imperfect efforts, and has carefully observed its tardy progress to perfection, will scarcely, I think, without astonishment, contemplate a poem produced so many ages before, so elegant in its design, so regular in its structure, so animated, so affecting, so near to the true dramatic model, while on the contrary, the united wisdom of Greece, after ages of study, was not able to produce anything approaching to perfection in this walk of poetry before the time of Asclepius. Smith says, "The debate rises high above earthly things, the way and will and providence." The debate rises high The debate rises high above earthly things. The way and will and providential dealings of God are investigated. All this is done with the greatest propriety, with the most consummate skill, and notwithstanding the expression of some erroneous opinions, all is under the influence of a devout and sanctified temper of mind. Has this most ancient, wonderful, and lofty work, breathing the spirit of primeval times, its origin lost in the night of ages, testifying to a high civilization and a higher moral development, has it anything to do with that event which lay far beyond the flood? If it is a drama of Atlantean times, it must have passed through many hands, through many ages, through many tongues, before it reached the Israelites. We may expect its original meaning, therefore, to appear through it only like we may expect its original meaning, therefore, to appear through it only like the light through clouds. We may expect that later generations would modify it with local names and allusions. We may expect that they would even strike out parts whose meaning they failed to understand and interpolate others. It is believed that the opening and closing parts are additions made in a subsequent age. If they could not comprehend how the fire from heaven and the whirlwind could so utterly have destroyed Job's sheep, servants, property, and family, they would bring in those desert accessories, Sabaean and Chaldean robbers to carry away the camels and the oxen. What is the meaning of the whole poem? God gives over the government of the world for a time to Satan to work his devilish will upon Job. Did not God do this very thing when he permitted the comet to strike the earth? Satan in Arabic means a serpent. Going to and fro means in the Arabic in the heat of haste. Sorry, check, check. Umbret translates it from a flight over the earth. Job may mean a man, a tribe, or a whole nation. From a condition of great prosperity, Job is stricken down in an instant to the utmost depths of poverty and distress. And the chief agency is fire from heaven and great windstorms. Does this typify the fate of the world when the great catastrophe occurred? Does the debate between Job and his three visitors represent the discussion which took place in the hearts of the miserable remnants of mankind as they lay hid in caverns, touching God, his power, his goodness, his justice, and whether or not this world appalling calamity was the result of the sins of the people or otherwise? Let us see what glimpses of these things we can find in the text of the book. When Job's afflictions fall upon him who check. When Job's afflictions fall upon him, he curses his day, the day as commonly understood wherein he was born. But how can one curse a past period of time and ask the darkness to cover it? The original text is probably a reference to the events that were then transpiring. Let that day be turned into darkness. Let not God regard it from above, and let not the light shine upon it. Let the darkness and the shadow of death cover it. Let a mist overspread it, and let it be wrapped up in bitterness. Let a darksome whirlwind seize upon the night. Let them curse it who curse the day, who are ready to raise up a Leviathan. Dr. Deu says it should read, "And thou, Leviathan, rouse up." Let a mist overspread it, literally. Let a gathered mass of dark clouds cover it. The fathers generally understood the devil to be meant by the fathers generally understood the devil to be meant by the Leviathan. We shall see that it means the fiery dragon, the comet. Let the stars be darkened with the mist thereof. Let it expect light and not see it, nor the rising of the dawning of the day. In other words, Job is not imprecating. In other words, Job is not imprecating future evils on a past time, an impossibility, and absurdity. He is describing the events when transpiring. He is describing the events then transpiring, the whirlwind, the darkness, the mist, the day that does not come, and the Leviathan, the demon, the comet. Job seems to regret that he has escaped with his life. For now, he says, should I have lain still and been quiet, if I had not fled, I should have slept. Then had I been at rest with kings and counselors of the earth, which built desolate places for themselves, or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Job looks out over the whole world, swept bare of its inhabitants, and regrets that he did not stay and bide the pelting of the pitiless storm. As if he had done so, he would now be lying dead with kings and counselors who built places for themselves, now made desolate, and with princes who, despite their gold and silver, have perished. Kings and counselors do not build desolate places for themselves. They build in the heart of great communities, in the midst of populations. The palace. The places may become desolate afterward. Eliphaz the Temanite seems to think that the sufferings of men are due to their sins. He says, even as I have seen, they that plow wickedness and sow wickedness reap the same. By the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils are they consumed. The roaring of the lion and the voice of the fierce lion and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The old lion perisheth for lack of prey, and the stout lion's whelps are scattered abroad. Certainly, this seems to be a picture of a great event. Here again, the fire of God that consumed Job's sheep and servants is at work. Even the fiercest of the wild beasts are suffering. The old lion dies for want of prey, and its young ones are scattered abroad. Eliphaz continues, in thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falleth on men, fear came upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Then a spirit passed before my face, the hair of my flesh stood up. A voice spake, shall mortal man be more than just God? Shall a man be more than his master? Shall a man be more pure than his maker? Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels be charged with folly. How much less them that dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, which are crushed before the moth. They are destroyed from morning to evening. They perish forever without any regarding it. The moth can crush nothing. Therefore, Maurer thinks it should read, crushed like the moth. They are destroyed, etc. Literally, they are broken to pieces in the space of a day. All through the text of Job, we have allusions to the catastrophe which had fallen on the earth. Chapter 5:3. I have seen the foolish kings. Whoops. Where did I get kings from there? I've seen the foolish taking root. I've seen the foolish taking root, but suddenly I, God, cursed his habitation. For his children are far from safety, far from any place of refuge. For his children are far from safety, far from any place of refuge, and they are crushed in the gate, neither is there any to deliver them. And they are crushed in the gate, neither is there any to deliver them. 5. Whose harvest the hungry catcheth up, cateth, eateth. 5. Whose harvest the hungry eateth up, and taketh it even out of the thorns. 5. Whose harvest the hungry eateth up, and taketh it even out of the thorns, and the robber swalloweth up their substance. That is to say, in the general confusion and terror, the harvests are devoured, and there is no respect for the rights of property. Check. 6. Although affliction cometh not forth from 6. Although affliction cometh not forth of the dust, neither doth trouble spring out of the ground. In the Douay version, it reads, nothing on earth is done without a cause, and sorrow doth not spring out of the ground. 5:6. I take this to mean that the affliction which has fallen upon men comes not out of the ground, but from above. 7. Yet man is born unto trouble as the sparks fly upward. In the Hebrew, we read for sparks, sons of flame or burning coal. Maurer and Gesenius say, as the sons of lightning fly high, or troubles are many and fiery as sparks. 8. I would seek unto God, and unto God would I commit my cause. 9. Which doeth great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number. 10. Who giveth rain upon the earth, and sendeth waters upon the fields. Rain here signifies the great floods which cover the earth. 11. To set upon high those that be low, that those which mourn may be exalted to safety. That is to say, the poor escape to the high places, to safety, while the great and crafty perish. 12. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. 13. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, that is, in the very midst of their planning, and the counsel of the forward. And the counsel that is in the very midst. Check. That is in the very midst of their planning, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. That is, it is instantly overwhelmed. 14. They meet with darkness in the daytime and grope in the noonday as in the night. Chapter 5. Surely all this is extraordinary. The troubles of mankind come from above, not from the earth. The children of the wicked are crushed. The children of the wicked are crushed in the gate, far from places of refuge. The houses of the wicked are crushed before the moth. Those that plow wickedness perish. By the blast of God's nostrils they are consumed. The old lion perishes for want of prey, and its whelps are The old lion perishes for want of prey, and its whelps are scattered abroad. Eliphaz sees a vision, the comet, which makes his bones to shake and the hair of his flesh to stand up. The people are destroyed from morning to evening. The cunning find their craft of no avail, but are taken. The counsel of the froward is carried headlong. The poor find safety in high places. And darkness comes in midday, so that the people grope their way. And Job's children, servants, and animals are destroyed by a fire from heaven and by a great wind. Eliphaz, like the priests in the Aztec legend, thinks he sees in all this the chastising hand of God. Eliphaz. Eliphaz, like the priests in the Aztec legend, thinks he sees all. Eliphaz, like the priests in the Aztec legend, thinks he sees in all this the chastening. Eliphaz, like the priests in the Aztec legend, thinks he sees in all this the chastening hand of God. 17. Behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. 18. For he maketh sore and bindeth up. He woundeth, and his hands make whole. Chapter 5. We are reminded of the Aztec prayer where allusion is made to the wounded and sick in the cave, whose mouths were full of earth and scurf. Doubtless thousands were crushed and cut and wounded by the falling stones or burned by the fire, and some of them were carried by relatives and friends or found their own way to the shelter of the caverns. 20. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. 21. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. Chapter 5. The scourge of the tongue has no meaning in this context. There has probably been a mistranslation at some stage of the history of the poem. The idea is probably, you are hid in safety from the scourge of the comet, from the tongues of flame. You need not be afraid of the destruction that is raging without. 22. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither thou shalt be afraid of the beasts of the earth. 23. For thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. Chapter 5. That is to say, as in the Aztec legend, the stones of the field have killed some of the beasts of the earth. The lions have perished, and their whelps have been scattered. The stones have thus been your friends, and other beasts have fled with you into these caverns, as in the Navajo tradition, where you may be able, living upon them, to defy famine. Now it may be said that all this is a strained construction, but what construction can be substituted that will make sense of these allusions? How can the stones of the field be in league with man? How does the ordinary summer rain falling on the earth set up the low and destroy the wealthy? And what has all this to do with a darkness that cometh in the daytime, in which the wicked grope helplessly? But the allusions continue. Job cries out in the next chapter, chapter 6. 2. Oh, that my grief, my sins whereby I deserved wrath, were thoroughly weighed, and my calamity laid in the balances together. 3. As the sands of the sea, this would appear heavier, therefore my words are full of sorrow. Douay version. 4. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me, the poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. The terrors of God do set themselves in array against me. War against me. Douay version. That is to say, disaster comes down heavier than the sands, the gravel of the sea. I am wounded. The arrows of God, the darts of fire have stricken me. We find in the American legends the descending debris constantly alluded to as stones, arrows, and spears. I am poisoned with the foul exhalations of a comet. The terrors of God are arrayed against me. All this is comprehensible as a description of a great disaster of nature, but it is extravagant language to apply to a mere case of boils. 9. Even that it would please God to destroy me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. The commentators say that to destroy me means literally to grind or crush me. Chapter 6. Job despairs of final escape. 11. What is my strength that I can hold out? And what is my end that I should keep patience? Due. 12. Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? That is to say, how can I ever hold out? How can I ever survive this great tempest? How can my strength stand the crushing of these stones? In my flesh brass, that it will not burn up. In my check. Is my flesh brass that it will not burn up? Can I live in a world where such things are to continue? And here follow allusions which are remarkable as occurring in an Arabian composition in the land of torrid heats. 15. My brethren, my fellow men, have dwelt. 15. 15. My brethren, my fellow men, have dealt deceitfully, have sinned. As a brook and as the stream of brooks they pass away. 16. Which are blackish by reason of the ice, and wherein the snow is hid. 17. What time they wax warm, they vanish. When it is hot, they are consumed out of their place. 18. The paths of their way are turned aside. They go to nothing and perish. The Douay version has it. 16. They, the people, that fear the hoary frost, the snow shall fall upon them. 17. At the time when they shall be scattered, they shall perish, and after it groweth hot, they shall be melted out of their place. 18. The paths of their steps are entangled, they shall walk in vain and shall perish. There is a great deal of perishing here, some by frost and snow, some by heat. The people are scattered, they lose their way, they perish. Job's servants and sheep are also consumed in their place. They came to naught, they perished. Job begins to think, like the Aztec priest, that possibly the human race has reached its limit and is doomed to annihilation. Chapter 7. 1. Is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Are not his days also like the days of an hireling? Is it not time to Is it not time to discharge the race from its labors? 4. When I lie down, I say, when shall I rise, and the night be gone? And I am full of tossings to and fro unto the dawning of the day. He draws a picture of his hopeless condition, shut up in the cavern, never to see the light of day again. Douay version, chapter 7. 12. Am I sea or a whale, that thou hast enclosed me in a prison? 7. My eyes shall not return to see good things. 8. Nor shall the sight of man behold me. Thy eyes are upon me, and I shall be no more. Or, as one translates it, thy mercy shall come too late when I shall be no more. 9. As a cloud is consumed and passeth away, so he that shall go down to hell, or the grave, the cavern, shall not come up. 10. Nor shall he return any more into his house, neither shall his place know him any more. How strikingly does this remind one of the Druid legend given on page 135 ante. The profligacy of mankind had provoked the Great Supreme to send a pestilential wind upon the earth. A pure poison descended, every blast was death. At this time the patriarch, distinguished for his integrity, was shut up, together with his select company, in the enclosure with a strong door. Here the just ones were safe from injury. Presently a tempest of fire arose, etc. Who can doubt that these widely separated legends refer to the same event and the same patriarch? Job meditates suicide, just as we have seen in the American legends that hundreds slew themselves under the terror of the time. 21. For now shall I sleep in the dust, and thou shalt seek me in the morning, but I shall not be. The Chaldaic version gives us the 16th and 17th verses of chapter 8 as follows. The sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat, but it withereth the grass, and the flower thereof faileth, and the grace of the fashion of it perisheth. So also shall the rich man fade away in his ways. And then Job refers to the power of God seeming to paint the cataclysm. Chapter 9, 5. Which removeth the mountains, and they know not, which overturneth them in his anger. 6. Which shaketh the earth out of her place, and the pillars thereof tremble. 7. Which commandeth the sun, and it riseth not, and seateth up the stars. 7. Which 7. Which commandeth the sun, and it riseth not, and sealeth up the stars. 8. Which alone spreadeth out the heavens, and treadeth upon the waves of the sea. All this is most remarkable. Here is the delineation of a great catastrophe. The mountains are removed and leveled, the earth shakes to its foundations, the sun fails to appear, and the stars are sealed up. How? In the dense masses of clouds? Surely this does not describe the ordinary manifestation of God's power. When has the sun refused to rise? It cannot refer to the story of Joshua, for in that case the sun was in the heavens and retained. It cannot. Have to redo that one. Let's see here. It cannot refer to the story of Joshua, for in that case the sun was in the heavens and refrained from setting. And Joshua's time was long subsequent to that of Job. But when we take this in connection with the fire falling from heaven, the great wind, the destruction of men and animals, the darkness that came at midday, the ice and snow and sands of the sea, and the stones of the field, and the fact that Job is shut up as in a prison, never to return to his home or to the light of day, we see that peering through the little understood context of this most ancient poem are the disjointed reminiscences of the age of fire and gravel. It sounds like the cry not of a man, but of a race, a great religious, civilized race, who could not understand how. Let me redo that sentence. Thank God I made it through that long one. Thank the gods. It sounds like the cry not of a man, but of a race, a great, religious, civilized race, who could not understand how God could so cruelly visit the world, and out of their misery and their terror sent up this pitiful yet sublime appeal for mercy. 13. If God will not withdraw his anger, the proud helpers do stoop under him. If God will not withdraw. If God will not withdraw his anger, the proud helpers do stoop under him. One commentator makes this read, under him the whales below heaven bend, the crooked Leviathan. 17. For he shall crush me in a whirlwind, and multiplieth my wounds even without cause. Douay version. And Job cannot recognize the doctrine of a special providence, he says. 22. This is one thing, therefore I said it. He destroyeth the perfect and the wicked. "23. If the scourge slay suddenly, he will laugh at the trial of the innocent. 24. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If it be not him, who is it then? Douay version. That is to say, God has given up the earth to the power of Satan, as appears by chapter 1. Good and bad perish together, and the evil one laughs as the scourge, the comet, slays suddenly the innocent ones, the very judges who should have enforced justices. The very check. The very judges who should have enforced justice are dead, and their faces covered with dust and ashes. And if God has not done this terrible deed, who has done it? And Job rebels against such a state of things. 34. Let him take his rod away from me, and let not his fear terrify me. 35. Then I would speak to him and not fear him. But it is not so with me. What rod? What fear? Surely not the mere physical affliction which is popularly supposed to have constituted Job's chief grievance. Is the rod that terrifies Job so that he fears to speak, that great object which cleft the heavens, that curved wolf jaw of the Goths, one end of which rested on the earth while the other touched the sun? Is it the great sword of Surt? And here we have another, chapter 10, allusion to the darkness, although in our version it is applied to death. 21. Before I go whence I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death. 22. A land of darkness as darkness itself, and of the shadow of death, without any order, and where the light is as darkness. Or, as the Douay version has it, 21. Before I go and return no more to a land that is dark and covered with the mist of death. 22. A land of misery and darkness, where the shadow of death and no order but everlasting horror dwelleth. This is not death. Death is a place of peace, where the wicked cease from troubling. This is not. I'm just going to take a quick scroll here and see. I think I have quite a bit to go. I'm on page 292 here. Yeah, I think I'm going to take a break here. My voice is not going to make it. And then we'll finish off this long chapter tomorrow, I guess it would be. Let me see here. Yeah, we will just stop here then, I think. 292. Let me see where I was. A land of misery and darkness, where the shadow of death and no order but everlasting horror dwelleth. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good place to stop. Just at This Is Not Death on page 292. Whoops. So yeah, thank you for watching, listening, and all that. This is a raw experiment of the live read of this awesome book by Ignatius Donnelly from 1883 called Ragnarok, the Age of Fire and Gravel. For all the other chapters, just go back to our live tab and you'll see them all there. And thank you very much. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Support our work. We're bringing rare books to you. And there we have it. That is it. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Love you.